What is up, everyone? So originally I decided that I was just going to do some commentary over some matches and then upload that, but I decided after seeing a couple questions regarding how I feel about the game with the Testfire having completed at this point, there's still one more hour, but I'm not going to wake up at 4 a.m. on a Sunday to play the last hour, so I'm just not going to bother with it. So I decided that I'll turn this video, instead of being some commentary over some matches where I just like explain things, I'm actually going to make this video my thoughts on the Testfire in general. So first off, I want to talk about the weapons. So we had the splatter shot, the roller, the charger, and the dualies. Now, I didn't spend too much time with the splatter shot, the roller, or the charger, mostly because I just was more interested in the dualies because they're new, so I was more interested in trying them over the other weapons. Pretty much the videos I uploaded of the 4 weapons, except for the dualies, those were maybe like some of the few matches I played with those weapons. With the point that my Splat Charger video was late, well, it's like later compared to the others, because I thought I had recorded more footage of it than I did. So I had to actually use one of the earlier hours this morning to record footage for that video. And so I spent most of the time playing the dualies. And so with the splatter shot, there really wasn't much different. The weapon is exactly the same as the first game, and my aim isn't really too good itself. I think that video, the splatter shot video, is probably one of the worst ones. Just didn't have too many good matches with it. Its kit was the burst bomb and the Tenta missiles, which I've heard that the name is going to be changed. I don't know if that's true or not. Apparently the localization team messed up with the name and thought that it fired 10 missiles, so they called it Tenta missiles. I don't know. Whatever. The kit is pretty good. I actually found that Tenta missiles were better than I thought they were going to be. Not in the sense of like they're really good at killing. They're more they're better for pointing people out, I guess. I didn't get too many kills with the special itself. More so, it was interesting to see how it functioned and how it outlined players. And even when I had fired it, it still kind of keeps them pointed out for a bit, so you can still chase them down. So if they don't die to the missiles, they can still be spotted by you, and you can just chase them down. Then again, I just want to point out, and a lot of people have been like ignoring this, these people probably aren't the best players. So the kills that you get, like you have an insane amount of kills in the game or in one of the matches in the Testfire, but you don't know who it is you're playing against. Like, for a lot of these people, they could be guys that have never played Splatoon, didn't play the first game, or, you know, just like played it at a very casual level. Where here I am, someone that put 4,000 hours into the first game, got the highest rank in the game, the highest level, and maxed out a couple weapons and used almost everything in the first, or used everything in the first game. So it's, I guess needless to say, it was a little unfair, but whatever. The Splat Roller, I mentioned it, and I didn't stream any of the Testfire. I recorded so it would get better footage, but my friend Brian, who was streaming, and we were just sitting in a voice chat, seeing if we'd run into each other. And so a lot of my first opinions of things were said on his stream, and I mentioned how the vertical flick was something that I just was not going. I didn't think I was going to get used to, because when it came to using rollers in the first game, I got so used to all the jank flicks you could do, like just flicking over walls and killing people with very minimal effort, and that was part of the problem. And I understand that's one thing they wanted to avoid, was having something like that happen again. But the vertical flick it's pretty interesting. It's definitely going to require aim, which is good because it punishes the rollers that like relied on just jumping and flicking to do all of the work for them. Now they have to actually aim. Or you can flick and then jump, it kind of works the same, but it's not gonna be as easy, and a lot of people are just going to try and jump and then flick, and then it'll just do a vertical flick when they didn't mean to do that. So it's interesting to see how the roller mains from the first game are gonna try and play it in this one, and if they're gonna try and get used to vertical flicking. And I feel like the rollers that relied heavily on just jumping and flicking to do all the work with just blindly are probably going to be the ones that are the most upset about the vertical flick and how hard it's going to be to land. Its kit, which did actually swap sub-weapons with the dualies from the Switch event demo. Originally, the roller had the curling bomb, while the dualies had the suction bomb, but they swapped them, so now the roller had the suction bomb and splashdown. The suction bomb is fine. I actually like having the suction bomb on the Splat roller. When it came to the first game, the Crack-On was probably my least favorite roller of all of them. I much preferred the Vanilla or the Koro. I just didn't like the Crack-On. If I wanted to play the Crack-On kit, I would have just played the Octobrush. So I just had no interest in it, and I was fine with having the suction bomb rather. Splashdown, pretty fun to use. It's probably going to be one of the few actual panic buttons in the game now. With the first game, the main panic buttons were the invincibilities, but because both Kraken and Bubbler are gone, now there has to be this new panic button, which I think Splashdown is probably going to be it. I don't think it's going to be as strong as people are making it out to be. I see a lot of people saying that, oh, I can't wait to use this in tower control if it's a thing, and so on and so forth, and I'm just like, yeah, but you'll see it coming. I don't think people realize, or they just seem to forget every time they talk about it, that when you use Splashdown, it outlines when it's being used. You can see it coming, so you can just move out of the way. It's, I don't even know how fast it activates or whatever. From what I remember being told is you can hold it or something. I didn't even try. I just clicked it and just let it go. I'm not used to holding or anything, or the idea of holding out a special, so I just didn't bother. But I remember hearing about that a while back from the Switch events. I don't think it's going to be as good as people think it is. It's definitely going to be the panic button. It's fun to use, and there was a couple of times where I killed people while they were in the air doing it, and that's one thing, not invincible. Any point with any of these specials, you are not invincible. So that's a good thing. Splat charger. I'm not good with unscoped chargers. I'm pretty sure that video was probably not fun to watch. I have to have a scope on a charger to be able to use it. I haven't used unscoped chargers since the launch of the first game, so I just couldn't do it. And I had to get the gameplay footage for it. I wanted to have videos of all 4 weapons. It came with the Splat Bomb and the Stingray. The Stingray being basically the replacement to the Whale. And I don't know, the Stingray just seems like one of the more underwhelming specials. It's slow, it takes a while to kill, and I just feel like it needs to be buffed, almost immediately. Currently it takes a long time to follow your aim, and then it takes 6 hits to kill. That's quite a lot. And from the Switch events, I managed to get some videos, and I went and put the video in Virtual Dub, which is a video editing program, and I slowed the video down frame by frame to see how long it took for the Stingray to kill, and it took roughly 43 frames. And Splatoon runs at 60 a second. While that may not sound like a lot when you think about it, 43 frames is about as long as it takes for a dynamo to kill. So if you just take a dynamo winding up, flicking, and killing you, that's about as long as it takes for the Stingray to kill you while having to follow you as you move. So that would be a Dynamo's Flick that's constantly dealing damage to you all throughout that 43 frame window. So when you think about that, it doesn't sound all that good. There were a few times where I've seen some interesting uses of it. Like there was a match where someone on my team used it to lock 3 of the enemies in one spot, so we would go in there and kill them. Like if they had tried to run, they would have died to the stingray. So they all ended up dying anyway. But yeah, it's definitely one of the more underwhelming ones, and I don't have a problem with that. I actually like that these specials in general just seem underwhelming, because the emphasis on specials needed to be removed. There's too much emphasis on the specials in the first game, where people feel that they have to have like Krakens, they have to have bubbles to do something. And so there's not a lot of emphasis on the main weapons anymore. There's just people wanting to use their Krakens and use their bubblers, and they use weapons for that ability, or they'll play certain weapons just to have the Kraken or the bubbler. And that's not really, I guess, I don't have a problem with that. It's just like, it's boring, I guess. And so I'm just happy that they seem to understand that specials needed to have their priority taken away, I guess. So now there's a bit more emphasis on actually killing people or using the main weapons in your sub, and the special being like okay, I'll use this now, not I have to use this now. You know, like where people would use Krakens or bubblers to save their lives. Now it seems like all these specials are underwhelming and weak by design, so there's less emphasis put on them, and I keep saying that, but I'm serious when it comes to that. I think that they want more focus on the main weapons and the sub-weapons over the specials. And so the specials seems like it's easier to punish them, a lot of them. Of course, we only know of the ones in the demo, but it seems like it's very easy to punish them if they're done incorrectly, and if you're good enough, you can make an impact with them. But I don't know, I just don't really think that the specials are all that great, or all the ones we have now, and I'm actually perfectly fine with that. And next we have, well, the final weapon we have is the dualies, and this was something that a lot of people were excited for. And then as we got closer to playing it and more information came out, that hype dipped down and down. Not long after the Switch events came out and they were showing footage of the weapons, I took video of dualies, put it into virtual dub, and went by frame by frame to figure out how long it took for the weapon to kill. And it took roughly 20 frames. Now, 20 frames is about the same time it takes for a splat roller to kill, and it's slightly slower than an end zap, and it's about the same speed as a 10 attack having to 4-shot someone to kill. So if you think about it like that, that's its time to kill. And it's not too bad, and so I don't have any problem with its kill time. My biggest problem with it would have to be people not knowing what to do with the dash. A lot of people that I saw were dashing to get close to me, when I feel like the dash should be used as a way to get around, like get away from people, or to like move around when you're in a fight already, not to approach someone, because then you make yourself stationary. And the amount of times I killed people because they would dash at me and then no longer could move, while I would just not dash and just walk around them, it was staggering. And people are going to catch on to that immediately and stop doing that. Or you could be like all the people I saw on Twitter and just immediately assume the weapon's bad. Because, that's fair to judge something when we have literally no control over the abilities we have. We're forced to use the same 3 abilities with no subs or anything. I feel like a lot of these weapons could be better if we just had the access to more abilities. Like, one of my biggest problems with the Charger was I'm used to having some form of damage up, so I don't have to fully charge to kill people. And I had to do that to kill. And so having, like, if I had damage up, probably would have had an easier time with the charger. Run speed would probably benefit the dualies quite a bit, but we don't have access to that. And because we don't have access to that, our views on these weapons are very limited. And I feel like that kind of hurts the opinions. People just don't seem to understand that these things can change, and weapons need their, an abilities to do something, and they're actually worth a damn. But I just saw quite a bit of hate for the weapons after the Testfire. The dualies specifically, there was a lot of people saying that it's not going to be good, and they won't use it in the final game, and just saying it's already trash, and I don't know. It came with the curling bomb, which is basically the new Seeker that can actually bounce off walls and be useful. And I love the curling bomb. If you look at some of the video that's probably playing right now, you'll see that I'm constantly throwing curling bombs. And that's because it just does a good job at painting and moving around and just pestering people. It does some damage when it comes into contact with people. It'll just push them aside, and the real damage comes when it explodes. But there have been a couple times where I've gotten kills just by it knocking into people. Like, they were that weak to where just coming into contact with it killed them. And that to me is just hilarious. And I got a couple kills that way, and I got a couple kills just randomly throwing curling bombs out to just cover the map. And then its special is the inkjet, which I don't even know how to feel about the inkjet. It's like a blaster, but it goes in a straight line. It doesn't seem to have any fall off or anything. It just goes forward from wherever it fired. And so it makes it, there's like the times where you think it's like, oh, it's gonna go into like this arc where if I fire, eventually it'll fall down a bit. But no, it just keeps going. And then it kills in one direct or a couple indirects. It doesn't seem to be two. Or if it is, it's not consistently two. I've had to hit like 3 indirects to kill people sometimes, and that's not even like far away from them. I had to 3-shot people that were the shots were landing close to them. So I don't know. The damage seems either inconsistent or I'm just really bad. But one of the biggest downfalls to it seems to be how open it is. Once people have access to the chargers they're used to, I feel like the inkjet is just going to be sniper fodder. That's pretty much it. It's just, once you're up in the air, you can just be sniped. In my charger video, you could see there was a few times where I tried to snipe someone out of the air, and I just failed because, like I said, I can't use unscoped chargers. But there are definitely people out there that once they have those scopes, or they're good enough with unscoped, where they can just dunk on people like that. You just make yourself too obvious. And despite the fact that it can one-shot if you direct, it's just too open and just too easy to be spotted that I don't really see it being good unless they increase the movement speed of it, or lower the amount of time it takes to start it up, like when you kick off the ground. Unless they speed that up, I don't really see it being too useful, because it's a little too slow to start. It's a little too open and moves a little too slow. I would definitely say that thing would need some buffs to be good or to be usable. It's not my favorite special, and there's so many times where I just didn't use it because I just didn't feel that it would be worth using. And that's just honestly how I felt about it. I just didn't want to use it. And it's a shame, but I guess I mentioned earlier, it's understandable. They want less emphasis on the specials, and I can see it. That's fine. I would just like to have access to something like a dualies without the inkjet if I wanted to have a special, but that's not how that worked out. So for the maps, the Reef got a change from the event demo. I didn't see too much of... I can't even remember what the original looked like. I'd have to go back and watch a video. But from what I remember being told is the bridge in the middle was the big change. And I like the Reef. It's a pretty good map. It's decently open, and then there's just, I don't know, it seems like a middle ground map. It's not too small, it's not too open. I feel like there's quite a bit of space that's unreachable. Like your spawn area has a little too much space to it, to where like you could just sit on like this part of the map where the enemy can't get even remotely close to you. Of course, you can't really do much from there, but I just feel like this spawn area, your like safe ground, is a little too much. There should be at least some, like, just a little bit of space for you to just get down. But problems like that can result in, well, Muscle Forge Fitness, which suffers from the problem where spawn camping is kind of easy because the spawn area is too small. It seems like these are like drastic, like one side of the spectrum and the other side of the spectrum, where the spawn area has a little too much space and the other one has too little space. And they just need to find a decent middle ground with that, or just make it harder and longer to get up to the spawn. I like Muscle Forge Fitness's design. I like the ramps going up and down, the elevation changes. I was always a fan of that. That's why Heights was one of my favorite maps in the first game. And it definitely seems like it's going to be a fun map to play. I'm interested in seeing how the ranked modes will work on that map. We don't even know what ranked modes are going to be in the game. People just assume that all three from the first game are going to return, and that no more ranked modes will come out. I'd like to see new ranked modes, but I don't know what they could come up with. I can't even think of anything. All I could think of is how they could change the 3 ranked modes to make them a bit better, but I've talked about that before in previous videos, so it won't bother here. But basically, out of the 2 maps, my favorite probably would have to be Fitness. The Reef was okay, but I don't know. I just like the Muscle Forge's design a bit more, and just my only problem with that is the small spawn. And then, I don't know. I just enjoyed the Testfire. I didn't get to play too much of the original Testfire from like the first game, because there was, around that time when it was happening, I was in the middle of moving, so I didn't have, internet or anything set up, and I finally got everything set up to play the final Testfire. Like, I only played 1 hour out of all of the Testfire for the first game, which is a little disappointing. And speaking of disappointing, I want to jump back a bit. The Testfire for Splatoon 2 lacks some things that the first one offered. Like, from what I remember, and the first Testfire, you could choose the gender of your Inkling, your eye color, and your skin tone. But in the second one, you are completely random. You could be either gender. You could have whatever skin tone and whatever hair style, whatever eye color, whatever. You're just randomly generated, basically. And I feel like that kind of took away from having like an identity in the Testfire. It's like anyone can be just anything. And in exchange, they gave us a few more things in form of settings, where in the Testfire you could actually change the sensitivity, something I don't think you were able to do in the first Testfire. It's been 2 years at this point, so I can't quite recall. But you were able to change the sensitivity, and it even introduced the ability to change the motion and the right stick sensitivity individually, which, according to some people, causes issues. I didn't see it, I didn't experience this, but there were people on Twitter that were saying that if your motion sensitivity level was a different number from your stick sensitivity level, then it would cause delay in the motion controls, and it would make it unplayable. I don't know, I didn't experience that. My motion sensitivity was -2, my stick sensitivity was +5, I had no issue. There was no delay with my motion controls, so I don't know. I don't know if it's something where people had this interference with their controllers and they were blaming the game or something. I don't know. My desk is literally sitting next to my dresser, and all of my game systems sit on my dresser. So I was probably like 5 feet away from my Switch when I was playing, maybe less. So the chance of interference is pretty low between the controller and the system. That might have some form of contribution to that. I don't know, but people claim that there was a huge issue with the motion controls that I didn't feel at all. And another thing was people saying that there was so many connection issues where people just constantly suffered from disconnects. I didn't disconnect once. And I think the reason for that is I'm using something that most people don't realize they have, and that my Switch is connected to my modem's 5 gigahertz connection. A lot of routers nowadays are called dual band, where they have a 2.4 gigahertz connection and a 5 gigahertz connection. And the Switch, because it has a real network adapter, unlike the Wii U, the Switch can have access to my 5 gigahertz connection, so I just have it connected to that. And so my Switch is able to pull in 50 megabits down, 50 megabits down and 10 megabits up, which is a huge step up from the Wii U, where if I did a speed test, I'd get 3 down and maybe 1 up. So that's a huge step up in terms of speed. And so my connection was fine. It was pretty good. And so I never suffered from these connection issues that apparently a lot of people were going through, where a lot of people were saying they couldn't go like 2 matches without having a disconnect. And I'm not talking about teammates disconnecting, people saying that they were disconnecting. So I don't know. I'm not sure if it's, once again, some interference, or they were using a 2.4 gigahertz connection without trying a 5 gigahertz connection, because dual band is relatively common. It's just that a lot of network adapters don't support it, so a lot of people don't see it, or they just don't have it enabled, because you do have to enable it. So I don't know if people just are just completely unaware of it, or they just don't care. I don't know. But basically the issues I see on Twitter are things that I did not experience, so I have no idea what people are talking about. So that pretty much ends it, I guess. I'm trying to think of something else, but all I can say is I did enjoy the Testfire. I expect that sometime soon, probably within a week or two, we may hear some information regarding either a Nintendo Direct for Splatoon 2, or some form of video for Splatoon 2, or even we'll just straight up be given a release date. I've been saying it before, and I fully expect May to be its release month. And a lot of people are going to argue that it says it's a summer game, or it's coming out in summer 2017, so May won't be the month. Splatoon 1 was also a summer game, and is still listed as a summer game, and it came out in May. And all of the interviews so far with the producer, they always mention that it happens, or this game takes place 2 years after the first game. So it just, it seems like it'd be, I guess, a very clever idea to release the game 2 years after the first game. So at the end of May. So I expect that to be the release month. Probably maybe at the start of June. I don't know. I probably wouldn't. I guess as far as I would go is July, maybe. At the latest, July. At the earliest, in May. I'd appreciate it if it came sooner, just because I want to play it after playing the Testfire. But I don't know. I expect some form of announcement soon regarding some information about the game, where we get a direct or just a release date in general. As far as I remember, we didn't even have a release date for the first Splatoon until after the Testfire, where it's like, surprise, it's dropping at the end of this month. And a lot of people were shocked about that. And there are a lot of people pointing out it's like, oh, if the first game had a Testfire in the same month, then that must mean we're at least a month away from this game being out. I don't think that's true. I feel like that's gonna be, yeah, that's a stretch, but it'd be cool. But like I said, I'm expecting it to be in May. But that's pretty much it. In regards to the information, like the information roundup I did for like last month, when it comes to March, there was nothing. Almost every piece of information we were given was towards the Testfire. We haven't really gotten anything new, so there won't be an information roundup video for March because everything was for the Testfire. So there really isn't anything new. So expect maybe a video of that next month. Hopefully, we'll get a release date. I hope. But yeah, I think that's it. This video has gone on for quite a bit so far. So I want to thank you all for watching. And that's that.